Good evening, and I wasn't aware PowerPoints were required tonight, so you're just getting me and no PowerPoint. Hi everybody, it is my pleasure, so if you combine privilege and pleasure, you get plugger, so I'm happy to be out here with you tonight. And as folks probably know, I generally have a staff representing me out here every month when you meet, and we also have district office hours here in Mountain House, so you don't have to come all the way into Stockton to see us. We come out here to you at least once a month. So with the redistricting of the lines, you now have a representative who represents one solid area. There's nothing wrong with our old representatives, but most of them represented. We had one person living in El Dorado Hills, one out in Danville, one in Livingston, one in Ceres. I live in the district. I live right in Stockton, and I represent. And this morning I was out passing out food baskets in Thornton, and then I was in Stockton speaking at O'Connor Woods, and then we were in Tracy, and now I'm ending my evening with you tonight. So that's the district that I represent, and hopefully you find this office accessible to you and here to meet your needs. As Superintendent Nichols said, we at the state this last year have really done our best to refocus on education. For those people who really want to talk about jobs, 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 I haven't talked to anybody in the state, in industry, who doesn't say we need an educated workforce in order to continue to grow our economic workforce. So that's a huge focus of ours. One thing Kirk didn't say is that we were very pleased this year to say, you know what, well, we're preparing to switch to Common Core. We're not going to make you take all the tests for the No Child Left Behind. We thought it was, getting in the way to keep trying to prepare to take the multiple choice test while at the same time you're preparing for the Common Core. So we did away with that for this year. Yeah, so people wouldn't have to be preparing for that at the same time they're preparing for the Common Core. And also just like to say congratulations that you have Superintendent Nichols out here. When I served a term and a half on the Stockton City Council. No, they didn't run me out of town. They elected me to a higher office. But at the time, he was a principal at a school that was doing a reading challenge. And I was so intrigued by it that I went out and visited him within my first couple of months in office. And we replicated that in Stockton and called it Stockton Reads. But it was at his sort of motivation that got me out there really trying to focus on literacy across the Stockton, as that was my district at that time. So I think legislatively it's been a good year. A lot of people, and I'm sure we have a mixed crowd here tonight, we're very afraid of the Democrats getting a super majority, and we're all going to go crazy and raise everybody's taxes and throw out Prop 13. And I think what people found is we took a real moderate course, really try to focus on education, try to focus on economic development, focus on veterans. Really some core things I think that makes California better. And if you just saw the reports that came out today, we're about $9 billion ahead of where we hoped we would be. It's good news, very good news. California continues to grow and excel. Don't believe everything you hear about all our jobs are leaving. The data, we're trying to be data-driven, also doesn't support that at all. A lot of our manufacturing jobs are leaving, but in place we're getting some more better, higher paying jobs, which is why it's so important for communities like this to really focus on education as a cornerstone of what you do, because it's that educated workforce that really allows us to continue to grow and thrive. So I'm glad to come out as often as I can to see you. I've been out a couple times. I've toured the district with Jan. I toured all the schools with the previous superintendent. And again, we try to get out as much as we possibly can. But please, any problems that you have on the state level, any ideas you have for bills, we just went over I'm pleased my first year in office, we got 9 bills signed by the governor. All of them, I think, that really focused on solving problems. We just had our brainstorming session where we went over all the bills we're going to do for this next year. And my question to my staff is always, are we solving an actual problem? And how big is the problem that we're trying to solve? And if not, we don't just need to keep layering bureaucracy and laws on top of other laws just to say that we've done something. Because what it really takes, I think, is just a common sense approach in getting out and talking to your constituents as much as you possibly can to understand what your issues are, and then to really take that and represent you at the state level. Not that there's anything wrong with people who take the per diem. It's an extra $25,000 a year to live in Sacramento. I choose not to do that. I like to continue to live in this district and drive back and forth every day to Sacramento. It keeps me in touch with people. There's not a day I don't walk my dogs that someone doesn't tell me about something, whether it be good or bad, or if I'm at a grocery store, they tell me something either good or bad, but it keeps me, that I never have any questions about what my role is when I go to Sacramento every day. We had a little tragedy over the summer, and my partner's sister died, and we inherited a 5-year-old. And trying to explain to a 5-year-old what you do every day when you go to work at the Capitol is difficult. So I just broke it down into, I serve the people. So when I get home every day, she says, Auntie Susan, did you serve the people good? And I say, I do my best, honey, I do my best. So that really is the mantra of our office, that we're here to serve the people. So any issues that you may have, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. We have 4 staff here in the district. I have 5 staff in the Capitol. Joe Raynat is with me here tonight. And I think you probably met Tony Long before. Tony had also, we've had a lot of loss in our office this year. Tony's dad died very suddenly this last week. So Joel's out with me tonight, so next time you see Tony, give him a little pat. But again, we live and we breathe with all of you, and it is our pleasure to service, and let us know if we can do anything to help. And thank God they just gave me 5 minutes, because I'm an academic and a politician, and I'll start preaching in a second. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Representative Eggman. We are very, very happy to have you, and thank you for coming. I'm going to invite our Supervisor Elliott's office. Oh, here you are. Okay. So some words from our Board of Supervisors.
Good evening, everyone. I am happy to be here. I imagine everybody that's not here must be either a Saints or a Falcons fan. It is Thursday night football. But unfortunately, Supervisor Elliot, once again, is at a CSAC conference. This time he's over in San Jose. At least he's a little bit closer, but unfortunately he had several receptions that he had to attend to tonight and won't be returning until tomorrow. But he has asked me to share just a couple of highlights of some recent efforts that he's made. Your President, Celeste Farron, attended the October 24th Mountain House Economic Development Stakeholder Meeting, the first ever that we've put together, and got the developer, the property owners in Mountain House together to go ahead and talk about things causing dialogue that between the stakeholders and governmental agencies to see what impediments there may be holding up development out here. There has been some movement, and things are moving along, and we've got some things moving, but we want to make sure that whatever impediments that the county, because we do control the land use out here still, we can work with the developers to make sure that we can continue to get things moving out here. We don't want anything to slow up any development, so we want to help to keep Mountain House moving towards its job housing goal. On November 7th, Supervisor Elliot reconvened the Joint City-County Criminal Justice Task Force. Now, this task force has been dormant for a couple of years, and the task force was created to engage the elected officials and decision makers of the 7 cities and keep them informed and up to date where we are and where we're going headed with our criminal justice system as it evolves. AB 109, the state's prison realignment law, has brought many changes, and while our sheriff, chief probation officer, our public defender, our DA, and our courts, and our chiefs of police have done a great job of dealing with the challenges of AB 109, Supervisor Elliot felt that it was very important to reconvene this task force. It was fundamental to maintaining the dialogue addressing the issues that the many facets of our crime in our county. There's a lot of different things that are taking place. I'm sure you're aware. We've had the discussions here, various things that are taking place in Mountain House, and I know crime is heavy on everybody's mind, and we all want to make sure that we do everything we can to engage all law enforcement and all the elected officials to make sure that the decisions that are being made make sense and we remain a safe community. So other than that, I don't have anything else anything else to share tonight. Any questions about anything on behalf of the county? I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Grant Line Road update?
Grant Line Road, I don't have an update. I should have thought to get one before I came out tonight. But things were moving along. There was they were dealing with the wiring and moving some things around, but I don't have a specific update for you. I apologize.
Can you send us one so we can disseminate it?
Absolutely, absolutely. Yes, ma'am. Any others? Okay. Thank you.
And if you can send that to either myself or to Angel, we'll get that posted out to the community. So next we're going to be showing you the video that President Farron was discussing. It was done several years ago about the Mountain House Creek, and it's just a little introduction that was made as to what the creek's about and how it's supposed to be operated. Are you ready? Mm-hmm. Okay.
Mountain House Creek Community Park. This is a unique.
It's just a short little PowerPoint and video to tell you a little bit about the park. A couple of things I'd like to bring up is that, as you saw, all your storm drain, everything that comes from your yard, everything that's in the street flows to the creek. So please don't put anything in the street that could kill or damage the wildlife. No antifreeze, no oils. Be very, very cognizant that anything that goes down your storm drains goes into the creek, and that is a very sensitive area. The other thing is I want to tell you about a couple of successes that have gone on with the creek park. We now have beavers in the creek. Now that's a pro and a con, because some people are complaining about the fact that they've seen the trees cut down. That's the food for the beavers. So that's a natural process. We're not going to go out and spank the beavers and tell them, no, 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 that's part of it. And as it being a riparian corridor, and as you start to get natural things, you're going to see things like that. So we're not going to go out and do anything about the beavers eating the trees, because that's part of the natural cycle there. The other thing that has come back is otters. You will see not ocean otters, but river otters have been seen recently this year in the creek. And that's really exciting. It's one of my favorite animals. And that means that there's a good substantial fish and crayfish population in the creek, because that is their food source. So that's a couple of real serious and exciting successes I wanted to pass on to you, as well as to really ask that you be careful and tell your neighbors if you see them doing anything that would be putting bad things in those storm drains, that they do directly go into the creek and therefore into the river. And that also means into your water system, since we take your water out of the delta and the river flows into the delta. So be really careful what you put down into your storm drains.
Jan, if I may add, please. I don't know if anybody noticed while Larry Nordstrom was speaking on this video, but one of the engineers that was involved in the designing and the construction of this creek is still with us today. And Nada, if you would wave your hand, I'd like to thank you, Nada.
Okay, next on the agenda is a little bit about the CERT program, and Director Lamb is going to be speaking, there he is, telling you a little bit about the CERT program.
Thanks for giving me a couple moments to speak about this. I just got done with the CERT training. It's a program put on by the San Joaquin, or the South County Fire Department, which is our fire department, or the company that we contract with. In Mountain House, we have about 20 people who have gone fully through the training. I think we have the largest group of people. Tracy, I think they've got a total of 60. Our town is much smaller than Tracy, so we've got a very good representation. This is Rajesh. He went through the training actually before me. He actually helped with my training. He was a non-English speaking victim in our safety drill, and caused me quite a problem. But this is the gear that we wear when we're doing our CERT stuff. CERT is about community preparedness. It's about learning how to take care of yourself, your family, in your community. And the presumption is that if something big happens, we have a big flood, a big earthquake, a large prolonged power outage, that the first responders are going to be overwhelmed. They're going to be putting out fires or dealing with casualties, and there's just not enough of them if it's a regional sort of thing, a large terrorist attack or something like that. And the problem is that there's lots of people that want to volunteer and help. But the problem is that those volunteers generally get underfoot because they're looking for help from the first responders who have something to do. And so this is training, teaches you how to integrate into their system, how to be into their command structure, how to communicate with them. It gives you a task that you're trained to do. And go ahead and go to the next slide. So these are some of the things that they do. They lit a fire on 11th Street in a big basin, and they had us put it out with fire extinguishers. I don't know about any of you, but I've never used a fire extinguisher. I didn't know how to use one properly. And there's like 5 different kinds of fire extinguishers. So you can't grab a fire extinguisher that's rated one way and put out, for instance, a chemical fire. They're rated differently. Electrical fire is a completely different extinguisher. And so they teach you what the different symbols on the extinguishers mean, how to use them, how to properly use them. And then they teach us the buddy system. So they teach us not to approach a fire without somebody else there to back you up. So Rajesh is my wingman tonight. They talk about basic disaster medicine and triage. Does anybody know what triage is in here, other than Rajesh? I know he does. Yeah. What's triage?
Well, it's basically sorting out
That's right.
what level people are.
That's right. Triage is the French word that means sort. So in a large disaster where there may be a lot of injured people, the CERT team's been trained to assess the victims and then sort them into different categories. So they're either dead, which is actually a definition for what dead means beyond just looking like they're dead. There's critical, which is that they're having problems breathing or they're having problems with blood flow. And then or actually they call it immediate, and then delayed. And then delayed is somebody who is injured but isn't having problems with respiration or blood flow, and they'll live. So even if they've got something going through their arm, they may not be an immediate threat of losing their life. And the trick is, the reason why we do the triage, why the CERT team does it, is they kind of pre-assess the people so that when the paramedics get there and the first responders, they can deal with the people that are closest to, immediate loss of life. So our job is to assist the fire department, we won't be fighting fires or anything like that. And they taught us a lot about, bandages and to stop bleeding, to assess for shock and things like that. So very basic. You're not getting an EMT sort of thing, but you're very basic medical training. They taught us a little bit about search and rescue. So they taught us a methodology for going into buildings, assessing where the structure is safe or not, what to look for, how to do it in a way that's safe for you and your team. They taught us a little bit about radio and communication protocols. So they taught us how the teams would use radios and a bunch of other little skills. So the reason why this is pertinent is, next slide. Yeah, we can skip that one. We can talk about all that. Next one. Is there's a class coming up, and we brought some brochures over here that has it in January. It's 4 classes, 2 short ones on Friday nights, and then an all-day class, and they always end it with a simulated disaster. And then they have the old CERT members, the ones that have been on for a while, acting as the victims, is what Rajesh did, and then all of the students actually going through the process of assessing people, doing the triage, having a command structure, and all of that. And then at the end, you graduate, you get a t-shirt, everybody likes stuff, and they give you a nice backpack with the hat and goggles and the vest, flashlights, gloves, a little bit of medical stuff to start your, what they call your go bag or your CERT bag. And then after that, you can add stuff to it, like first aid kits and things like that. It's whatever you think you might need, maybe a power bar or something like that if you're going to be away. The CERT team trains. We had a training exercise this weekend where the fire department goes out to the airport. They light this trailer on fire, and the firefighters are practicing their firefighting skills, and the CERT team is there to support canteen service. That's one of the functions of CERT. So when they had the Mount Diablo fire earlier this month or the month before, CERT went out and provided water service and stuff like that to the firefighters. We did that at the burn demonstration out at the airport. They also support the parades in Tracy. My hope is that we'll be able to have CERT support the parade this year in Mountain House on the 4th of July to work the barricades, because we'll have the radios and the communication tools. So if somebody's lost a child or if there's an emergency, the CERT guys can communicate, say, hey, we need to open the barriers and stuff like that. So if you want to get involved, there's a very limited space for these academies. They only do 20 people per class, and I think they only do them every 4 months or so. So I'd love to see a great group of people in Mountain House, and that's it. Does anybody have any questions about CERT? No? All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Lamb and Rajesh.